Welcome, comrades, to the Art of Cinema. I am Colonel T, and with me yet again is our glorious leader, General Secretary F, the invincible and triumphant leader who is the incarnation of the appearance a leader should have.
That's right, comrades. This has not been a bad dream, and it's not over. This really is the country you live in, the People's Republic of F.
A trial by fire indeed, sir. To open the show today, let's go to the mailbox and read some of the compulsory fan mail sent in by one of our comrades. This letter is from Leon Wilkeson, who lives at one of our Arctic labor camps. Comrade Wilkeson writes, "Hail our victorious iron-willed commander. Several years ago I was arrested, together with the rest of my family, by masked, heavily armed shock troops who stormed our home late at night, bound and blindfolded us, and shipped us far, far to the north. I've spent the years since our arrest digging ditches in the hard, frozen ground here, which is very difficult to do by hand with a shovel. It is my honor and privilege to serve the revolution by digging these ditches. I used to be an engineer, but only our glorious leader, in all his wisdom, could see that I am of more service to the revolution by digging ditches by hand in the Arctic."
Oh, that's great. Thanks for writing into the show, Comrade Wilkeson. Yes, you were once an engineer for the PRF. But we've taken a look at your file, and it seems that the secret police had some concerns about your commitment to our revolutionary dogma. As we monitored your family's discussion of movies, we just weren't hearing you reach the correct revolutionary conclusions about the meanings of those movies. So that's why we had you relocated to the Arctic labor camps, to break your spirit and then reshape it, to make you a better servant of the revolution. Thank you for writing into the Art of Cinema, Comrade Wilkeson, and may you survive the coming winter.
For those of you wishing to avoid relocation to the Arctic labor camps, we suggest that you pay close attention to this show, The Art of Cinema, your favorite mandatory re-education program. We're currently examining films from the 1990s, analyzing them to see how we can draw revolutionary principles from them. Our film today is called A Perfect World.
A Perfect World. So this must be a movie set in the utopian future, after the victorious PRF armies have conquered the globe, after the sweeping advance of the service personnel and people who march in fine array, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, inspired, of course, by my glorious leadership.
One would think, sir. But in this case, the American filmmakers have chosen the title A Perfect World in a spirit of irony, to emphasize the dysfunction and futility of the capitalist imperialist system. At the start of A Perfect World, Kevin Costner and Keith Sharabeka are two inmates at a Texas penitentiary. Remember in A Dark Knight where they've got Keith Ledger as the Joker in the police interrogation room? After the Joker tells Batman where Rachel and Harvey Dent are, after he tells Batman they're tied up in buildings full of explosives, and Batman's going to have to choose which one of them to save? Well, right after that scene, there's a cop standing at the door in the interrogation room, and the Joker says, "You want to know why I use a knife? Guns are too quick. You can't savor all the little emotions." You remember that scene?
Sure.
Well, the cop that he says that to, that's Keith Sharabika. But Kevin Costner and Keith Sharabika are two inmates in a Texas penitentiary. The story of A Perfect World begins on the day of Halloween in 1963, which was less than a month before Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas. So this fits one of the themes of this film, because the assassination of JFK was a watershed in American history. It marked the end of the America that belonged to the greatest generation, and the beginning of the America that belonged to the baby boomers. Kennedy was shot in November of 63, and then in February of 64, the Beatles appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show. Kevin Costner and Keith Sharabika escape from the Texas penitentiary and invade a home where a mother lives with her 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. They're looking for a car to steal to make their getaway. The woman's husband is gone. He's left her and his kids. It's Halloween, but the family are Jehovah's Witnesses, which means the mother doesn't allow her kids to go trick-or-treating or celebrate Christmas or birthdays or go to carnivals or ride roller coasters. So the boy is repressed, you see. But Kevin Costner is about to fix that.
So it sounds like this boy is the people, and Kevin Costner is his glorious leader.
Potentially so, sir. I think so. So Kevin Costner and Keith Sharabaika invade this family's home at dinner time. Keith Sharabaika eats some of the family's dinner, and then he starts to force himself on the mother, but Kevin Costner stops him. They take the boy for a hostage, steal the family car, and drive off. We see that there's a good man in Kevin Costner, and that he's very intelligent, even though there's also a violent felon. But Keith Sharabaika is nothing but a monster, reckless and out of control. They stop next at a country store, and while Kevin Costner is inside to buy a pack of smokes and some RC colas, Keith Sharabaika's temper flares when he picks a fight with the boy. The boy gets away from him and ducks down in a cornfield to hide from him. Keith Sharabaika hunts for the boy and wants to hurt him. But before Keith Sharabaika finds the boy, Kevin Costner finds Keith Sharabaika and shoots him in the head, kills him. Once again, then, we see that there's both a good man and bad in Kevin Costner. The cops who are after Kevin Costner include Clint Eastwood and Laura Dern. Clint Eastwood is a Texas Ranger, and he's old school. Laura Dern is a university-trained criminologist. She's not old school. She represents the modernization of law enforcement that threatens Clint Eastwood's old school ways. Laura Dern is frustrated because she has a hard time getting the boys' club of old school cops to take her seriously. But it's the 60s now, and Laura Dern, the criminologist, represents the inexorable march of progress.
Ah, yes, the inexorable march of progress that has seen the world develop from feudalism to mercantilism, from mercantilism to Laura Dern, the criminologist, and then at last from Laura Dern, the criminologist, to the bright sun of my glorious leadership.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Bradley Whitford is a federal agent who joins the cops hunting down Kevin Costner. Interestingly, Bradley Whitford is also one of the conspirators in the Aykroyd administration in My Fellow Americans, the last film we discussed.
Oh, wow. I remember that.
At one point, Bradley Whitford tries to force himself on Laura Dern, not unlike Keith Sharabaika did with the boy's mother. But Clint Eastwood walks in on them and stops Bradley Whitford before it goes too far, just like Kevin Costner stopped Keith Sharabaika. So the cops and the criminals really aren't so different, it would seem. Kevin Costner and Clint Eastwood have ended up on different sides of the law through circumstances in their lives over which they had no control. Laura Dern understands this as a criminologist. She's read the case files on Kevin Costner and knows all about him. But eventually, after she's won Clint Eastwood's respect on the job, he tells her something she doesn't know. Earlier in Eastwood's career, when Costner was still just a boy, Eastwood convinced a judge to sentence Costner to 4 years juvenile detention for a very minor crime. Eastwood did this trying to help the young Kevin Costner. Costner's father had been a career criminal and badly abusive, so Eastwood thought that sending him to juvie would get him away from his father and give him a chance to avoid becoming a career criminal himself. But instead of giving Costner a life with some structure and support, his 4 years in juvenile detention only resulted in the life of crime that Eastwood hoped to spare him from. Kevin Costner and the boy keep stealing different cars to try to stay a step ahead of the cops. They stop at a store where Costner buys some clothes, and the cops almost catch him. While everyone's busy watching Costner outwit the cops to get away, the boy steals a Casper the Friendly Ghost Halloween costume. Costner tells him stealing is wrong, but then again, if you're broke and you really need something, what are you going to do? You have to steal it. So that's a profound moral philosophy the boy learns from Costner. It's like Fat Tony on The Simpsons when he asks Bart, is it wrong to steal a loaf of bread to feed your starving family? Well, suppose you've got a large starving family. Is it wrong to steal a truckload of bread to feed them? And what if your family don't like bread? They like cigarettes. Now, What if instead of giving the cigarettes away, you sold them at a price that was practically giving them away? Would that be a crime, Bart? No, it wouldn't. So it's not wrong, according to Fat Tony, to steal the cigarettes, and it's not wrong, according to Kevin Costner, for the boy to steal the Halloween costume. So the boy learns that morality is subjective, and he should decide for himself what's right and what's wrong.
In the PRF, of course, the boy would have no need to steal a Halloween costume, because we distribute Halloween costumes equally among the people. As long as our secret police report the boy to be in full compliance with my glorious leadership, we'll find some counter-revolutionaries among the people. Counter-revolutionaries who are no doubt hoarding Halloween costumes, among other things. We'll banish the counter-revolutionaries to our Arctic labor camps and redistribute their Halloween costumes according to the boy's need.
More to the point, though, the boy finds a father figure in Costner. He finds a man he can look up to, a man whose lead he can follow, what he's not getting from his real father who walked out on the family. He sees the good in Costner. The bond between the boy and Costner is beautiful in a perfect world.
It's a little bit like, it's kind of like if you are a secret policeman and you have a Arctic laborer trying to dig a ditch, and then you just fill in his ditch as soon as he's done. Oh, sure.
Like the beautiful bond that develops between the
kind of
laborer
bond.
And the guy whose ditch you fill in after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. It is.
Yeah. Have an Arctic laborer doing, I will always love you.
So Whitney Houston maybe is the Arctic laborer.
That's right, yeah.
And then Kevin Costner is the bodyguard.
I think so, yeah.
She has a bodyguard at the Arctic labor camp, really?
Sure, yeah. I mean, if you're Whitney Houston. I mean, she's counter-revolutionary, but, she's got a good set of pipes.
Send her up there with her bodyguard.
Yeah. Wait, Kevin Costner wasn't the bodyguard, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was him.
Oh, okay, good.
I didn't see that movie, but I did hear that song many times in junior high school.
That's good, because that reference would have made no sense otherwise. I wonder what Whitney Houston did to deserve the Arctic labor camp. I wonder if... she
was the one digging the ditch.
That's right, and Kevin Costner was her bodyguard.
Who filled the ditch back in right after she dug it.
And then Bobby Brown.
But despite that, she will always love him.
Yeah. And not Bobby Brown.
But for as much of the good man in Costner that we've seen so far, the bad man in him is about to show back up. He and the boy park in a cornfield to hide their car from the cops on the road and get a night's sleep. An old man who's a hired hand at that farm finds them in their car and invites them into his home to sleep for the night and get a good breakfast the next morning. The old man and his wife keep a home there on the farm, and they're raising their grandson there. The old man's wife is the replacement Oracle from the two Matrix sequels. The old couple's grandson is just a couple years younger than the boy who's on the run with Kevin Costner. So the family show Costner and the boy real hospitality, but the old man is abusive with his grandson, hits him upside his head, gets angry with him pretty easily. This really upsets Kevin Costner, makes him think of the abuse he got from his own father. So Costner eventually snaps. He starts to tie the old man up and is going to kill him. But while he's tying the old man up, the boy takes the gun and shoots Costner in the gut. While Costner is down, the boy takes the gun outside and throws it down a well. Costner follows the boy out into a field. He's not angry with the boy for having shot him. In fact, he tells the boy he did the right thing to stop him from killing the old man. But the old man has called the cops, and they finally track Costner down out there in the field near the old man's house.
Now, this is the sort of thing I like to see. The police tracking people down. If Texas had secret police like in the PRF, they could have nipped this whole thing in the bud a lot sooner.
In the last scene of the film, the police corner Kevin Costner and the boy. They pull their cars up to the edge of the field and talk to Costner from a distance with a bullhorn. Costner can't run anymore because of his gunshot wound, so he knows the jig is up. Eastwood disarms himself and walks halfway out into the field to negotiate the boy's release. The cops bring in the boy's mother and get the boy to leave Costner's side to come back to her. In exchange, Costner gets her to say she promises she'll let the boy go trick-or-treating and ride roller coasters. But after the boy walks halfway across the field, he turns around and runs back to Costner, hugs him. The cops think Costner still has a gun and might hurt the boy, So Bradley Whitford, the sniper who's had Costner in his sights all this time, ends up shooting him. At the end of the film, Clint Eastwood tells Laura Dern, "I don't know nothing. Not one damn thing." That's a great line. Eastwood did everything he knew to help Costner, both when Costner was young and he put him in juvenile detention to get him away from his abusive father, and now in trying to negotiate his release of the boy as a hostage. But all Eastwood ended up doing for Costner was to consign him to a life of crime and incarceration, and then get him killed in the hostage negotiation. Laura Dern asks Eastwood, "You know you did everything you could, don't you?" "I don't know nothing. Not one damn thing," he says.
In the People's Republic of F, by contrast, we do know one damn thing. We know that I, your glorious leader, must skillfully hammer the chisel of atrocity into the block of marble that is society, artfully shaping and crafting it to reveal the beautiful sculpture of sociopathocracy.
This has been The Art of Cinema with our glorious leader, General Secretary F. Let us maintain vigilance against the ever-looming threat of an American invasion. You are required to report any non-participation or dissent amongst your comrades. Don't forget to tune in to The Art of Cinema again next time for further discussion of films from the 1990s in your next mandatory re-education session.